Right, if I could ask you to take your seats, thank you very much. Bonjour, bienvenue à notre réunion de midi en direct sur EBS et en ligne. Nous sommes le mardi 21 septembre. Let me start by giving you an overview of the agenda of the college meeting that will take place tomorrow. The college will discuss a proposed review of EU insurance rules, the so-called Solvency II rules, so that insurance companies can scale up investment in Europe's recovery while making the insurance sector itself more resilient to future crises. Executive President Valdis Dombrovskis and Commissioner Mairead McGuinness will come to the press room immediately after the college meeting for the college readout and to present this file to you. Please note, this is important, that the college meeting will start at noon. So you can expect the college readout sometime in the afternoon, but it's not possible for me to tell you now precisely at what time. We will offer you an off-the-record technical briefing on this file under embargo tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. The college will also adopt a proposal on the review of the generalized scheme of trade preferences for low-income countries. Executive Vice President Valdis Dombrovskis will hold a press conference to give you the details just after his press conference on Solvency II tomorrow afternoon. In addition, we are organizing an off-the-record technical briefing under embargo for you on this proposal at 3 p.m. this afternoon. So a busy agenda in terms of press events as of this afternoon, 3 p.m. Puis, je tiens à vous rappeler que le Conseil des Affaires Générales se réunit aujourd'hui de l'autre côté de la rue. Le vice-président Maroš Šefčovič y représente la Commission. La présidence slovène présentera ses priorités pour les prochains mois. Les ministres vont préparer la prochaine réunion du Conseil européen, discuteront de la coordination au niveau de l'Union européenne face à la Covid-19 et de l'état des relations entre l'Union européenne et le Royaume-Uni. La Commission présentera également sa lettre d'intention concernant son projet de programme de travail pour 2022 et son rapport annuel de prospective. Une conférence de presse avec le vice-président Šefčovič aura lieu vers 17h et donc je vous demande comme d'habitude de réserver vos questions sur ces sujets pour cette conférence de presse. Voilà qui clôture nos annonces pour aujourd'hui et nous pouvons donc passer à vos questions. Et je vais commencer avec Martha. Yes.
Hi. I'd like to ask, because I know and I've seen that two commissioners have welcomed the decision of the United States to lift the ban to European citizens if they are fully vaccinated. But I'd like to know, why do you think it's been so difficult to get to this point, taking into account that since July, United States citizens can come to European Union if they are vaccinated? And second question, if you think this is a step forward in normalizing the relation between EU and the United States, let's say that are in an uncertain moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Adalbert?
Thank you very much. I will allow myself to address maybe just the first leg of your question. And even so, it is rather difficult for me to explain the decision-making processes within the government of the United States. What I can perhaps recall is that this is an issue on which we have had sustained engagement with the United States. We've put in place an expert group in order to exchange information about the best ways to reopen safe transatlantic travel. And it's also something that has been discussed on the political level several times as to what exactly led to this particular timing of the decision. I would suggest that you ask our counterparts on the other side of the Atlantic.
On the second leg of your question, the President was very clear in her interview yesterday that there are global issues on which work with our partners must continue exactly like before, and she mentioned among those issues COVID-19 and its consequences. Any other questions for Adalbert on this issue? Colleagues in the chat have raised many, many hands, and I'm completely unable to see whether any of those questions relate to the issue at hand. So please only keep your hand raised if your question relates to the issue of the decision by the United States yesterday to lift the travel ban. Oliver, you have your hand raised.
Yes, salut Eric. Sorry, quick follow-up. The Americans, the CDC so far only, I think, has authorized the use of the biotech Pfizer and the Moderna and I think the Johnson Johnson vaccine, but not of AstraZeneca. I mean, a huge part of Europeans is vaccinated with AstraZeneca. Is this something the Commission is bringing up in the talks with the Americans? Thank you.
Albert.
Thank you. For now, it's a little bit too early for me to confirm any details that we would have about this announcement. It's still very fresh on the American side, so I would suggest maybe to wait for the American side first to confirm everything about it, and then of course we will continue to play our role in terms of clarifying these aspects for European citizens as appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, it's working now. Thank you very much. I see some further hands raised on this issue, so not on vaccines in general, but specifically on the travel, on the decision by US authorities related to the travel ban. Hugues. We have a technical issue. So, just for you in the press room, the transmission has been interrupted for the colleagues who are following us on the chat. We are waiting for the issue to be resolved. Another good reason to come back to the press room physically, n'est-ce pas? Although we're not doing this on purpose, I can assure you. Okay, listen, whilst we wait for transmission to be restored, and promising my colleagues that we will come back, although I see the English floor works. No? Okay, so let us move on to other issues. Yes, please. We'll come back to the issue of the travel ban once the technical issue is solved.
Yes, hello, Eric. It's Kateřina Šefaříková from the Czech Daily Hospodářské noviny. I have a question on a conflict of interests related to structural funds in the Czech Republic. And the question is actually two questions. One is the Commission has sent a letter dated 17 September, so last Friday, asking the Czech authorities to reply on a topic of corrective measures by this Wednesday. So I would like to ask you to confirm existence of such a letter, because I haven't seen it, and answer the question why such a short notice, which is actually 3 working days. And a second question is, in the previous letter by the European Commission, the Commission is warning that it will freeze reimbursement of EU funds to the Czech Republic, shall the Czech Republic not implement the corrective measures properly. So inevitably, my second question is, if the Czech Republic doesn't reply by this Wednesday, as you supposedly require, will you then start the process of freezing out the EU funds for the Czech Republic? Thank you.
So, in terms of the conflict of interest case, the broader context is again the audit report, which was finalized by the 1st of December 2019. Now, in that report, we formulated 15 recommendations, most of which have been implemented by the Czech side. Discussions continue on a set of 3 remaining recommendations, which is why we've been exchanging letters with the Czech authorities. Now, earlier in the summer, the Commission sent what we call the second follow-up letter to the Czech authorities, and the deadline for them to answer to this was the 8th of September, to my knowledge. However, the Czech side requested that the deadline be postponed to the 5th of November. The Commission, however, informed the Czech authorities that we will not grant this extension, and we expect a response from the Czech side within a reasonable amount of time. I would need to check exactly what the remaining timeline is. So what is the sort of a provisional deadline within which we expect an answer to the second follow-up letter. Now, you remind me of your second question, please?
If they don't answer appropriately, what will we do?
If you start the procedure to freeze out the reimbursement of EU funds to the Czech Republic, shall the Czech Republic not respond sufficiently by the deadline set?
Yeah, I think we have to narrow down the scope of the question. So if you look back at the audit report, in that report, we looked into a group of 98 operations. And we said that for these operations, should the Czech authorities submit a request for reimbursement, we would not do so because of our suspicion of an existing conflict of interest affecting these operations. Now, we also said that in the end, the Czech authorities did not submit any request for reimbursement concerning these operations. Therefore, there was no need on our side to recover any funds. Therefore, for now, what remains to be done is to carry on implementing the remaining 3 recommendations emanating from the audit report of 2019.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the room on this issue? No. I turn to my colleagues to see whether operations are back. Okay, we only have English. So let's see whether we can nevertheless take a question in English from Hugues, if Hugues is willing to speak English. Hugues, tu as la parole.
The Commission said it was a source of authority for information on COVID and COVID-19. So I see a lot of disinformation on the net, and this is why I'm asking you a question to give me the right information. So my question is there a graphene oxide is in one or all COVID vaccines authorized by the EU? Graphene oxide, oxide de graphène. And my second question is this substance healthy in the case there is some in the vaccine authorized by the EU? Thank you very much.
Hugues, thank you very much, but this is the sort of question that I believe you should address to the vaccine manufacturers themselves and to the European Medicines Agency, who has actually carried out the analyses of the vaccines, not to the European Commission. I see that some colleagues, some of your colleagues have not heard the response on whether AstraZeneca was part of the decision on lifting of travel restrictions for travelers, and what Adalbert responded was that it was too early to tell. We needed to have more precise, more specific information from the American authorities on the exact content of the decision that has been announced. So we invite you to follow what the American authorities will provide in terms of details on this, as we will, and I'm sure that we will have another opportunity to come back to this issue. Right. Okay. Further questions on the travel or the decision by the U.S. authorities? Thomas? No? Is it on this? Okay. Mose?
A related follow-up question. I think that President von der Leyen said in her State of the Union speech last week that there are, say, more than 40 countries that have been plugged in, as he said, with the EU. And I suppose that refers to some kind of mutual recognition of the certificates, vaccination certificates. My question is, does this mean that all EU member states are also, let's say, obliged to recognize such a certificate from another country in line with this agreement with the EU? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, these are agreements between the European Union and the countries concerned. But as to the specific details of the rights that this opens, let's remember, and I speak under the control of Christian, that this is a technical link-up between the certificates of these countries and the European Union. It does not mean that they take over, basically, the regulation which was adopted inside the European Union. Christian.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Mose, for the question. So, look, I mean, so what I can clarify is that so far we have 60 non-EU countries that have been connected to the system. This means, of course, that that their system is compatible with ours. So the certificates that these countries issue can be read and recognized by the European system, by the EU Digital COVID certificate system. And on the other hand, if I understood correctly, your question was also whether in these countries you could also use the EU COVID certificate, and the answer is yes.
But I think that Moses' question relates to, for example, do member states have to recognize somebody who would have been vaccinated with a vaccine that is not recognized by the European Medicines Agency? And the answer, I think, is clearly no, they're not obliged to do so.
This is, I mean, there are rules. I think we have explained this several times. I think are well known. So to clarify once more, of course, the vaccines that are authorized, have marketing authorization in the European Union, need to be recognized by member states. And for other vaccines, for instance, which are on the WHO authorization list, or which a member state might have authorized under emergency procedure only in its territory, there it depends then on the respective member state.
Thank you for this clarification. Okay, are there other questions on the travel restrictions? Is it on this, travel restrictions? Yes? Hold on. You need to wait until it's read.
Oh, it's on the travel ban, yes. I just wanted to ask, have we had any indication as to when the US may reveal the details as to whether they will let in people with AstraZeneca? And would you call on them to do that, to allow people in who've had the AstraZeneca jab?
Thank you. Well, clearly, we believe that the AstraZeneca vaccine is safe. That is why it was authorized in the European Union. And therefore, from our point of view, obviously, it would make sense for people who have been vaccinated with AstraZeneca to be able to travel. But clearly, this is a decision for the United States. Just as Christian has explained, we have taken our own decisions when it comes to the people who are able to travel in Europe. I think that it is clear from that perspective. As to when exactly the Americans will reveal the details of the decision, we cannot say. Any other questions on this? No. So I go back to Oliver, who has a question on the EPPO. So perhaps for you, Christian. Christian.
Yeah. Hi,
Oliver, sorry. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, because I think it's Christian dealing with it. The EU Observer wrote on Friday that the European Public Prosecutor's Office is asking for another 7.3 million euros in order to hire financial and IT experts. And they write that the Commission is refusing to grant this additional funding. Can you clarify this? And what's the latest state of play there? Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Oliver. On the EPPO funding, I mean, the Commission is of course fully committed to ensuring the EPPO is equipped with adequate financial resources and staff. And the Commission has actually proposed, we have proposed ourselves several months back, this increase of the budget for, if I'm not mistaken, 7.3 million, so around 7 million. The 2021 budget was was indeed increased for 7 million. Overall, the EU budget contribution to the EPPO has been tripled compared to the financial planning originally, done at the time when the proposal was launched. Against the overall background of stable staffing, the Commission agreed with the EPPO that for the 2021 additional EU budgetary contribution, this could also be used partly to hire additional staff.
Thank you. Thomas, you have a question on the same issue.
Yes, I had the same question, and now I'm using the opportunity for a follow-up. I don't understand if the EU Observer story is correct or not, because they say that the money was actually allocated, but that the authorization for spending was not given. So I don't understand if there is an issue or not. Thank you.
It's of course not for me to say whether the story is correct or not. That you can check. But what I can tell you is that, again, this additional funding we have actually proposed originally, and then as for agencies, for example, it is indeed necessary for the Commission to also decide or agree on allocations of staff. We will of course not discuss this in any detail in the press room, but the essence of the matter is that we have agreed for some additional staff for the EPPO, and we have also agreed with the EPPO that looking at next year's budget, this can again be discussed once the EPPO is basically in full swing, in full operations. It's easier and clearer to see what the exact needs are, and so this is an ongoing process where we are in contact with the EPPO to ensure that it can do its task to the full.
Thank you very much. I think that Christian has said all he can on the issue. I see that further hands are raised, I guess, on this as well. Catherine?
Yes, Eric. I think the question's pretty clear but you haven't answered it. Has the European Commission blocked the European Public Prosecutor's Office from hiring specialised staff that they need to carry out their work? You said how much you're committed to it, what the budget that's being contributed. You haven't answered that question. Have you blocked the organisation from using their budget to hire specialised staff?
Thank you. I think Christian has answered what he can answer to this question, and therefore we will not go into further detail on this. Oliver.
No, sorry. Yeah, but I have to repeat Catherine's question. I don't understand the answer. They say they need stuff they are not being authorized by you to hire. So what is it? And actually, we didn't get the answer. So please tell us: have you said no to hiring or spending requests of the EPPO? Thank you.
Christian. I think Christian said we have authorized a budget increase. We have authorized the recruitment of staff. And we can go no further than that. Christian.
Yes, we have tripled the budget of the EPPO. We have done an additional increase for this year's budget. We have authorized a number of additional staff. What I can maybe add to clarify is that the EPPO indeed requested still more staff, and the Commission agreed with the EPPO, as I said, that we would look at this again and for the next year's budget. So this process is ongoing, and you can rest assured that the EPPO will continue to be funded adequately and have the staff it needs.
Thank you. We move on to other issues. Yes, please. I can't always recognize you behind your mask, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm Julia from Ara newspaper. I think my question is for Tim. It's on energy. Yeah, so the Spanish government sent yesterday a letter claiming that the electricity market is a European issue, not only a national issue, and even asking for guidelines and remedies from the European Commission. I am aware that until now you said that national governments have room to take measures, but after this official request from the Spanish government, are you actually considering or will consider to put forward any kind of measure or initiative? Thank you.
Yeah, as you say, there was a letter which was sent yesterday by a couple of ministers from the Spanish government, which was addressed to Executive Vice President Timmermans, Executive Vice President Vestager, and Commissioner Simpson, if I recall correctly. As you would expect, we take that letter, we'll take the time to look into it and see what the reaction would be. It's too soon for me to immediately respond to those requests from the Spanish authorities.
Thank you. Are there other questions on energy for Tim?
It's energy related. It's Dorota from Polish TV Polsat. It's about the case of the Polish coal mine in Turów.
Because I think this would be more for Vivian. You're right that it's energy related, but not in the sense of the energy economy. Are there other questions for Tim on energy? Mindaugas, is there a question on energy from the chat?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Mindaugas Laukagalis from Lithuania National Radio and Television, and some countries blame the EU green policy because of the rising prices and emissions trading system in particular. So I'm sure you've mentioned this a while ago, maybe last week, but just to clarify, what is the Commission comment on this, that the prices rising is due to the EU green policy? Thank you.
Thank you. We love that question because it allows us to clarify a certain number of things. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, and I would also point you to remarks that Executive Vice President Timmermans made last week in the plenary of the European Parliament, and remarks that Commissioner Kadri Simpson made in a press point on Friday afternoon at ITER. So they've both addressed this issue, but I'm happy to repeat it. So, I mean, the price increases that we see at the moment are a combination of several factors, but the dominant factor is the global market for gas, linked those prices being driven up by economic recovery, by high demand in Asia, for example. Now, the carbon price has increased. This is true, but we consider that, and the statistics show that that's a small percentage of the overall rise. Another thing that's worth pointing out is that throughout this period, renewables have continued to produce electricity at the lowest cost and at a stable cost. So this is something also that the Executive Vice President said last week. You know, the irony is that if we'd started 5 years earlier, or if we were 5 years further forward in the green transition, you wouldn't be seeing this dependency on fossil fuels, which, as I say, is the main driver at the moment of this issue. Of course, it's something that we pay very close attention to, And the Commission is committed, as you know, to a just transition and to making sure that as we implement the European Green Deal, the consumers are at the heart of that, that we help those that are most vulnerable through policies and through EU funding to make that transition. To give just one example, the Climate Social Fund, which was part of the package of proposals which we presented in July, foresees over 70 billion euros of investment in clean energy, energy renovation, clean transport, which will be generated by revenues from emission trading, from putting a price on carbon. So I think to sum up, the Green Deal is something which will, in the medium to long term, bring down the energy prices and increase our stability and reduce the dependence on fossil fuels and the price volatility that we see at the moment.
Minaugas, you have a follow-up. Go ahead. Oh, we seem to have a technical issue once again. It's clear that next to the green transition, we need the digital transition. No? Okay. I don't know if you can still hear us. Mindaugas, try again. Not working. Okay. This is highly unusual. We have not had these issues up until now. So we will take a question from the floor. Lorenzo.
Good, you can recognize me after 2 months. On this issue, I mean, it's clear that there is a demand from the Spanish government. There are other governments that are in trouble for this. They are trying to find something. So my question is the Commission thinking to come out with some guidance or some, I mean, what you said, you know, how to use the Just Transition Fund, the ETS revenues, other issues that Timmermans also mentioned, like reducing the VAT on energy prices, all this. I mean, it looks like there is a demand for clarifications, for guidance from the Commission. Do you intend to come up with something like that, or are you just expecting to do this during the discussion that will be in the Parliament on the Fit for 55? They are waiting for that. And I mean, it would be useful also for us journalists, a technical briefing on this. What kind of instruments can be used and the governments have in their hands available to respond to this problem? Thanks.
Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I would separate...
Hold on, because you're not on the... You haven't pushed. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think first I would separate the two issues, the discussion about the energy prices and the negotiations on Fit for 55. You know, one is a kind of temporary market-driven issue, and the other is the long-term structural point. But as you say, this is a topic which is raising interest in a number of member states, and I can reconfirm that we're talking to the member states. We're being very constructive in our conversations with them. As we've said here, there's tools that member states have available. Taxation policies, social policies, there are measures that they can take within certain circumstances to look after vulnerable households. So there's a dialogue which is ongoing bilaterally, and I think in particular, the Spanish case has been very constructive, and we've listened to the proposals that they've made, but it's not the only one. Whether there would be more kind of horizontal, formal guidance that we would look at, I think it's a bit early to say. I mean, we're talking to the member states. There's an Energy Council going on at the moment where Commissioner Simpson is there, and I'm sure we'll be listening to what member states, ministers have to say. But of course, if there is something, we're happy to communicate with you as soon as that is the case. On the question of a technical briefing, I think, Eric, that's something that we could certainly look into, because I think there's appetite.
Yes, I mean, the issue of energy prices is way more complex than what meets the eye at first sight. And I would caution against simple explanations as to what is exactly causing something, because if you just look at the composition of the price of energy, you will see that there's a price of the energy source itself. In the case of most sources of energy, you've got the transportation and the distribution costs, and then you've got all the taxes and levies, for example. This is speaking just based on my own experience of the file. And basically, to try to say, you know, there are price hikes, it's linked to policy decisions or policy proposals which are on the table, simply misses the point. What we need to make sure of is that we actually analyze the issue thoroughly, in a way that actually pinpoints the real causes of the price hikes that are being mentioned by the member states, in order to identify what might be possible solutions and then at what level they can be implemented. That, I think, is what we have to do collectively. So obviously the Commission takes these issues very seriously and talks to member states on this. But as Tim rightly pointed out, you need to make sure that you distinguish between a structural policy issue, on which, by the way, there is complete agreement between the member states, which is the need for long-term efforts to combat climate change, which, if we abandon, will create costs which are in a completely different dimension from what we are talking about here, and the immediate issue of the increase of costs for households in their energy bill, which is obviously a very important issue, but that we need to deal with as an economic issue that may require different types of measures, in particular from member states or from the Commission or from the economic operators themselves. So I'm sure this is something that we will have ample opportunity to come back to in the near future. Are there other questions on this issue? That is not the case. I think that Christian wanted the floor earlier, so let me see. Christian Spielmann, tu voulais la parole sur ce sujet ou un autre sujet, je ne sais pas.
Ah, ça y est, on me l'a donné la parole. Excusez-moi, c'était un peu lent. Tu m'entends ou pas?
Oui, absolument, vas-y. Je te vois pas, je vois un écran de contrôle, mais je t'entends.
Ouais, tout est très compliqué aujourd'hui. Non, je voulais juste rebondir sur l'intervention de Tim, mais je voudrais comprendre pourquoi est-ce qu'on annonce dans certains pays de l'Union européenne que les prix de l'électricité, du chauffage électrique, sont en augmentation et qu'ils vont avoir une facture qui va être bien supérieure à ce qu'ils payaient l'année précédente. Parce qu'effectivement, comme tu dis, le renouvelable offre de l'énergie à des prix qui sont assez doux. Donc comment est-ce qu'on peut expliquer cette hausse des prix de l'électricité, pas du gaz, hein, de l'électricité? Merci.
Oui, en fait, bon, la situation est différente dans différents États membres, comme vous dites, et ça a plusieurs raisons. Il y a la question qu'Eric vient d'évoquer, les 3 tiers de la facture électrique, qui sont la génération, le transport, le réseau, et puis les impôts, les taxes. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'il y a des variations d'effets dans les États membres. En ce qui concerne l'impact du prix de gaz sur le prix de l'électricité, c'est qu'il y a certains États membres où le gaz est utilisé pour la génération de l'électricité. Ça varie d'un État membre à l'autre. Je pense que ça serait possible de vous envoyer un peu plus de détails en bilatéral sur la composition différente, la situation différente dans l'État membre. C'est aussi question de comment est organisé le marché au niveau national.
Merci. Donc il faut bien comprendre que effectivement la structure des marchés peut varier d'un État membre à un autre et que donc l'impact d'un facteur ne sera pas le même à travers toute l'Union européenne. Il dépendra fortement de la manière dont un État membre a organisé son marché de l'énergie. Bien entendu, certains facteurs, étant donné qu'il y a des connexions entre les marchés, certains facteurs se transmettent d'un pays à l'autre, à la hausse et aussi à la baisse, il ne faut pas l'oublier, mais malgré tout, il reste des différences entre les différents marchés. C'est vraiment un sujet qui demande une analyse fine afin de ne pas se tromper dans le diagnostic que l'on pose et les solutions que l'on apporte, et c'est pour ça que Tim a raison d'être prudent en ce qui concerne ces explications, parce qu'il peut y avoir des variations importantes d'un État membre à l'autre. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur ce sujet? Sur ce sujet encore, le marché de l'énergie? Alors, yes, please, go ahead.
I just wanted to quickly ask Tim, you talked sort of specifically about the tools member states might have available to deal with this issue. What tools would the Commission have to deal with this in the sort of shorter term?
No, I think we said that we were going to look at the tools that either the member states or the Commission would have. So when we have a proposal to make, we will explain. But let me remind you that the Commission has been working for decades now on improving the functioning of energy markets in Europe in order to make them more interoperable, to ensure, for example, that gas can flow not just from east to west, but also within the European Union from west to east, etc., building interconnectors, connecting markets with the role of with market players. So we have been doing a lot in order to ensure that the market becomes more effective, more efficient, and as Tim rightly pointed out, that the cheapest sources of energy, in particular renewables, now that they are becoming the cheapest, have a priority access to the market. So we have been playing our structural role in terms of organizing the market. But obviously, that does not rule out that there will be impacts, for example, linked to the fact that we still import energy from abroad. Yes, please.
Beata Płońska, Polish Radio. I've got a question on Nord Stream 2 and Gazprom. Last week I asked about the letter sent by the MEPs to the European Commission, but there's another information, namely the paragraph that was in the email sent to the Commission, not in the letter itself, but in the email, reminding the Commission about the Article 8 of the Regulation 1/2003 that it can adopt interim measures against Gazprom if Nord Stream 2 starts to operate illegally. So the question is whether the Commission is ready to use this article if Nord Stream 2 starts without certification. Thanks.
So you twice used the word if and emphasized it. So as you know, I'm not going to be able to speculate on that. I mean, you know, I think you asked the question on Friday if we'd received that letter, and we have done, and we will reply to that in due course. I can also just recall what is the situation now, the certification procedure. So Nord Stream 2 now needs to submit a request for certification to the German regulator. The information we have is that that was done on the 8th of September. The German regulator then has 4 months to assess that application. It will adopt a draft certification decision. It will then request the Commission's opinion as required under the amended gas directive. And when the Commission receives that submission, we will have 2 months to react. And then the German agency will have to take the utmost account of the Commission's opinion. So, as I say, this is the certification process, and I'm really not going to speculate on what might happen if something.
Okay, Mindaugas, another question on energy. Oh, Beate, sorry.
Just small follow-up. So the procedure is rather long, and Gazprom announced that it will start on the 1st of October. So the question is valid whether the Commission is aware of this article and is ready to use it once it starts to operate illegally. There are only 2 weeks to the 1st of October. Thanks.
Well, I think the Commission is aware of all the legislation which is in place, but we're not going to speculate on an announcement which has been made about something which might happen in a few weeks' time. we trust that the certification process will follow its course.
Okay, we go back to Mindaugas if it's a question on energy.
Yes, it is indeed. Just to clarify, you are talking about longer-term measures on how to tackle the rising energy prices, but is there anything that the Commission can take, the short-term measures that can tackle this issue?
Mindaugas, let me clarify again. We have said that before we can discuss what possible measures could be taken in the short term, in the medium, or in the long term, and by which type of actor, the member states or the Commission, we need to continue the analysis. So we will come back if and when we do have proposals to make at that point in time, but not now. Okay. I see no further questions on energy, so I open the floor again to other questions. Yes, please.
Bonjour, Luis Telecinco. Bonjour. Ma question concerne l'île de La Palma et l'éruption du volcan. Il y a plus de 6000 personnes qui ont été déjà évacuées et plus de 160 maisons au moins qui ont été détruites par la lave. Donc, est-ce qu'on peut attendre une aide économique européenne de manière urgente? Est-ce que la Commission va attendre qu'il soit le gouvernement espagnol qui demande cette aide ou il y a quelques options de mobiliser quelques ressources économiques avant? Merci.
Merci. Alors, sur l'aide d'urgence, je passe la parole à Balázs, mais il faut bien faire la distinction entre, d'une part, l'aide d'urgence que la Commission européenne peut apporter et les aides à plus long terme qui dépendent généralement, effectivement, d'une demande des États membres. Balázs.
Effectivement, donc concernant les aspects de gestion de crise, évidemment, on est en contact avec les autorités espagnoles depuis des jours, en contact intense, je devais y ajouter. Et ce qui s'est passé jusqu'ici, c'est que les autorités espagnoles ont activé ce qu'on appelle le système satellitaire Copernicus. Donc, du coup, dans ce contexte, la Commission a fourni quelques images pour aider aux autorités espagnoles de voir un peu les conséquences de l'éruption du volcano. Une autre possibilité à notre disposition, c'est l'activation du mécanisme de protection civile de l'Union européenne. Cette option n'a pas encore été activée par les autorités espagnoles. Néanmoins, si c'est le cas, bien évidemment, on est là pour aider et on va faire tout ce qu'on peut pour apporter notre assistance sur le terrain.
Merci. Y a-t-il d'autres questions sur ce sujet ? Merci de ne garder votre main levée que si c'est sur ce sujet. Another question on La Palma, Alexander?
Sorry, it's not the same topic.
Thank you. Any other questions on this? No, then I go to Yasmin, who had raised her hands quite some time ago. Yasmin, you have the floor. And hello.
Yes, hello, thanks. Thanks a lot. Hello, Eric. Nice to see you. I have a question on the Trade and Technology Council. So President von der Leyen said in her interview to CNN that there would be no return to business as usual in the light of the current disputes and the tensions around the EU and between the EU and the US. I would like to know, the Trade and Technology Council normally should start in 1 week, around 1 week. So can you confirm that this might be delayed, or at least are you considering to delay the kickoff of this format? Thanks a lot.
So thank you. What I can answer is exactly the same as what I answered yesterday on the issue of the next round of trade talks with Australia. There is indeed a date which had been fixed for the TTC, which is next week. And we are analyzing the consequences of the announcement on AUKUS in terms of its possible impact on this date, and we will come back to you at a later stage on this issue. Is it on this, Dorota? Sorry, hold on. Let's wait first to see if there are other questions on this. Alexander.
Thank you. My question concerns an open letter sent by Access Info, Transparency International, and a couple of other transparency NGOs to the Commission today, specifically to Commissioners Jourova and Breton.
Alexander, excuse me for interrupting, but as you know, we try to deal with issues one after the other. So I've noted down the fact that you want to come back, but let me first see if there are other questions on this issue, and I will come back to you afterwards. Sorry for this, but I try to keep a bit of consistency in the management of the midday briefing. Lawrence, if it's on this. Can't hear you. You need to unmute. I think it's a question of headset, I'm told. You need to consider moving back to Brussels, Lawrence. Okay. Try plugging in your headset, says the colleague. No. Okay. Look, send your question in writing and we'll see what we can do. Other questions on the same issue? Federica.
Hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, sorry, there is no video. I'm a little stuck also today. I just wanted to clarify, yes, on the impact on AUKUS on TTC, because I know that you were saying before that you are still evaluating the consequences on AUKUS, but I wanted to understand exactly how, at what point the evaluation is and who is in favor of a stronger response and who's not in favor of a stronger response, and if you're actually considering moving the date of TTC to later in October, and in that case, if you're giving an announcement this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Federica, but I have absolutely nothing to add to what I've just said. I'm sorry, we're not going to go into a deep analysis of who is saying what in each quarter. The fact is that the president of the Commission was very clear yesterday in the interview that she gave that we were seeking information and we are analyzing this announcement and what it means for the EU, because it's an announcement that does not just concern France, but a member state of the European Union. And therefore, we will come back to the issue of the date once a decision has been taken. So, Lawrence, I see you've typed very quickly. There's only 8 days before September 29th. When will there be a decision on the TTC date? I gather there's a meeting on Friday to discuss it, which is after the Macron-Biden discussion. Is that when we should expect a decision? Question mark. You can expect a decision when we announce a decision. I cannot give you a specific date, but obviously the decision will come before the date that has been set for the TTC. This is not supposed to be a wry answer, sorry, but I mean, I cannot provide you with a date for the decision. David.
Oui, merci Eric. C'est une question plus générale, parce qu'il y a quelque chose que je n'arrive pas à comprendre vraiment dans toute cette discussion. On a entendu plusieurs fois le haut représentant dire que l'Union européenne n'est pas un acteur militaire, n'est pas une alliance militaire, et donc elle n'a pas à voir à des questions militaires. Et là, on a à voir avec une question militaire entre un État membre et un État tiers ou deux États tiers. Et donc, je voulais comprendre quel est l'élément, à part la France et l'irritabilité de la France doit être pris en compte par la Commission. Je voulais savoir quel est le vrai élément du problème. Si je m'appelle bien, dans un document que vous avez transmis au Conseil européen signé par la Commission, vous dites qu'il faut tendre la main à l'administration Biden sur la Chine. La discussion est prévue au début d'octobre, mais la position de la présidente est dans le document. Donc voilà, je voulais comprendre le raisonnement par rapport à votre réaction, à la réaction de la présidente hier à l'interview CNN. Il y a un État membre, la Lituanie, qui est attaqué par la Chine directement parce qu'elle veut faire ouvrir un bureau de représentation de Taïwan. Et je n'ai pas vu les autres pays démontrer leur solidarité, ni la Commission d'ailleurs. Je n'ai pas vu de grandes déclarations en disant c'est pas acceptable tout ça. Donc voilà, à part la France, je ne comprends pas la logique de votre réaction.
D'abord, je crois que la présidente a été très claire. Elle a dit hier que entre pays partenaires et pays alliés, entre donc les pays de l'Union européenne qui constituent donc l'Union européenne et les États-Unis, on s'attend à ce qu'il y ait des rapports de confiance, de l'information et de la transparence. Donc, ce n'est pas lié au fait que ce soit une annonce dans le domaine militaire ou non, c'est la manière dont les choses se sont passées que la présidente ne considère pas acceptable. Et donc, c'est sur ce point, sur la manière dont les choses se sont passées, qu'elle a réagi. Ça n'a rien à voir avec les relations avec la Chine, sur lesquelles je crois que la Commission et l'Union européenne ont de manière générale des positions extrêmement claires. Donc voilà, il s'agit de cela, des rapports de confiance auxquels on est en droit de s'attendre en tant qu'Union européenne, composée d'États membres, dans nos rapports avec les États-Unis, la Grande-Bretagne, l'Australie, qui sont des pays partenaires, amis et alliés. David, follow-up.
Donc, si je comprends bien ta réponse, c'est plus un problème de forme que de substance.
Je te rappelle que c'est un accord entre trois pays dont nous n'avons pas tous les détails de toute manière. Il y a un certain nombre d'annonces qui ont été faites, qui ont été très surprenantes. Je crois que tout le monde l'a dit. Le haut représentant, vice-président de la Commission, l'a dit hier. Il y a dans nos rapports avec les États-Unis et avec nos autres partenaires que sont l'Australie et la Grande-Bretagne, une attente de notre part en ce qui concerne la manière dont les relations se déroulent et les décisions sont prises. Quentin.
Oui, bonjour Eric, est-ce que tu m'entends?
Je t'entends.
Super, excuse-moi, j'ai eu pas mal de problèmes techniques, donc j'ai deux questions dessus. C'est est-ce qu'il est possible pour la Commission peut-être d'organiser le TTC la semaine prochaine si le mandat n'est pas approuvé par le Conseil ou si le Conseil n'a pas donné officiellement son blanc-seing? Donc est-ce qu'il est possible que cette réunion puisse être lieu, que la Commission européenne puisse représenter l'Union européenne dans ce cas-là? Et l'autre question, c'est ça a pas mal coupé au niveau, de tes annonces sur la vidéo en ligne. Est-ce que tu peux nous dire si le deal, enfin AUKUS et toute la question de la France et des contrats des sous-marins va être mentionné au collège demain? Merci.
Alors sur ta deuxième question, comme tu le sais, il y a un point qui est toujours à l'ordre du jour de la Commission, sauf exception, qui est les relations internationales, avec une présentation du haut représentant vice-président de la Commission européenne. Et je ne doute donc pas que ce point sera évoqué demain lors des débats du collège, qui, je te le rappelle, sont néanmoins confidentiels. En ce qui concerne ta première question sur le mandat du Conseil sur le TTC, autant que je sache, il faudra peut-être que l'on revienne vers toi. Je regarde mes collègues, mais je ne suis pas sûr qu'on comprenne clairement où est le problème, étant donné que la réunion a été fixée précédemment pour avoir lieu la semaine prochaine. Donc je ne pense pas qu'il y ait de problème particulier de formalisation d'un quelconque mandat pour le lancement. Mais si l'information devait être autre, on reviendrait vers toi. Quentin.
Donc en fait, il est possible pour la Commission de pouvoir se lancer à une réunion, même s'il y a des accords au Conseil.
Mais la réunion a déjà été fixée. La réunion a déjà été fixée précédemment, comme je l'ai dit. Elle est censée avoir lieu la semaine prochaine. Donc c'est la Commission qui participe à cette réunion au nom de l'Union européenne. Mais il va sans dire que malgré tout, nous sommes en train d'analyser, comme je l'ai dit, les conséquences de cette annonce sur AUKUS sur le calendrier. Christian.
L'État membre peut dire qu'ils ne veulent pas que la réunion qui est déjà fixée se tienne pour des raisons justement qui sont liées à la manière dont les États-Unis traitent les Européens avec le AUKUS. C'est ce qu'un pays membre a dit. On voudrait que ce soit reporté tout autour de ça. Merci.
Écoute, je ne suis pas ici pour commenter ce que les États membres disent individuellement à la Commission. Ça, vous pouvez demander aux États membres. Ce qui est clair, c'est que nous sommes en dialogue permanent avec les États membres, que nous les écoutons, y compris sur les réunions que nous avons avec des pays tiers, que ce soit dans le domaine commercial, que ce soit dans le domaine de la coopération technologique. Tu sais très bien qu'il y a un dialogue permanent, mais nous ne sommes pas en position, en mesure de détailler l'ensemble des contacts que nous avons avec les États membres. Christian.
Mais comment allez-vous déterminer l'opportunité de tenir ou non cette réunion? Est-ce que vous allez faire un vote au collège où visiblement les commissaires sont assez divisés? Parce que même si ce sont des personnes qui ne représentent pas complètement leur pays, on sait très bien par exemple que M. Dombrovskis est assez peu favorable à un report et qui voudrait maintenir cette réunion. Donc j'aimerais comprendre, est-ce que effectivement il va y avoir un vote pour prendre cette décision? Est-ce que c'est une décision décidée par Mme von der Leyen toute seule? Bon, merci.
Merci. Écoute, la présidente est à l'Assemblée générale des Nations Unies, comme tu le sais. Elle revient demain. Elle aura l'occasion de s'entretenir avec ses collègues sur les mesures les plus appropriées à prendre et nous ne manquerons pas de vous en tenir informé le cas échéant. Quentin. Et après, je vais midi pour aborder éventuellement d'autres thèmes. Dernière question, Quentin.
Oui, alors c'est pas sur le TTC, mais c'est sur le commissaire Phil Hogan. C'est depuis que l'article du Observer est sorti ce matin, est-ce que il a transmis ou pas à la Commission européenne sa nomination? Est-ce qu'il est encore normalement il est encore trop jeune pour demander la retraite, mais est-ce qu'il reçoit encore des indemnités de la Commission vu qu'il était un ancien commissaire? Est-ce que ça va être discuté au collège? Et est-ce que tu peux nous dire aussi si la Commission européenne est prête à comme elle l'a déjà fait dans le passé, à sanctionner des commissaires s'ils ne respectent pas les règles d'éthique?
Merci. Balázs.
Donc, Quentin, si je comprends bien, ta question concerne l'obligation des anciens commissaires de nous informer ou de nous demander une autorisation avant d'accepter un emploi après la fin de leur mandat. C'est bien ta question, c'est ça? Ça veut dire que oui, ok, on m'a informé. Donc, effectivement, c'est vrai, donc d'une manière générale, il y a une obligation pour les anciens commissaires de nous informer pendant une période de 2 ans après la fin de leur mandat, s'ils souhaitent commencer un nouvel emploi. Donc, dans le cas de l'ancien commissaire Hogan, je me rappelle qu'on a accepté jusqu'ici 2 activités. Pour l'instant, c'est le cas. On a vu dans les médias qu'il y a un rapportage par rapport à une 3e activité potentielle. On est en train d'étudier cette question. Donc, pour l'instant, c'est tout ce que je peux dire.
Quentin, tu as une question de suivi.
Comment ça marche les contacts? C'est-à-dire qu'il est revenu vers vous ces derniers jours pour parler de cette discussion-là? Est-ce qu'il a déposé l'autorisation pour pouvoir travailler dans ce cabinet d'avocats ou pas?
Donc, comme je l'ai dit, la première chose à faire pour nous, c'est de vérifier si le rapport qu'on a vu est vrai ou pas. Donc, pour l'instant, c'est tout ce que je peux dire.
Voilà, tu peux être sûr que nous allons prendre contact, en tout cas, pour nous assurer de la véracité ou non des informations et voir quelles sont les mesures à prendre. Okay, I will take a couple more questions. There is a question on this. Dorota. No, go ahead, Dorota. No, go ahead. We changed subject. I thought you had left.
No, it's well, I miss my own direct because we are waiting for over 1 hour in the mask, so I don't see much of the added value to be here physically. Sorry. The question is about the coal mine in Turów in Poland. Yeah.
We've already discussed Turów in Poland, but go ahead.
But the decision of the fines has been announced by the tribunal yesterday. So now my question is, what are the expectations of the Commission? Polish government confirmed that they received the information about this interim measure. Does it mean that you are expecting the fines, the payments from Poland already for the day of yesterday and today, as the government says they don't have plans to close down the mine? Or as the government also announced that probably they will not realize that interim measure. Does it mean that the fines will be deducted from the funds? Which funds? And do you really expect that the mine will be closed down from one day to another, as practically, as you know, when it comes to mining activity, this is not possible? Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Well, when it comes to the issue of this Turów mine, then indeed for the Commission, when we look at it, we see that the court decided already in May this year, asking or ordering rather Poland to immediately cease lignite extraction activities in the Turów mine. So for us, of course, we expect Poland to respect this interim measures order. Now, as Poland hasn't respected this interim measures order, yesterday the court ordered Poland to pay this daily penalty of 500,000 euros a day for the failure to comply with it. On our side, for the Commission, we would like to reiterate to Poland that they must execute this interim measures order of May to immediately cease lignite extraction in Turów. So this is the position that we have vis-à-vis the situation with the mine. When it comes to the matters that how to monitor that Poland complies with this interim with this order issued yesterday, there we will pursue the matter with the Polish authorities, and we can, of course, use all appropriate means that we have in collecting information about what is happening on the ground. We will take all the necessary measures, which we have, for Poland to pay this daily penalty which has been imposed yesterday. And this measure will, from what I understand, or not from what I understand, from the situation that it will remain in place until Poland complies with the interim measures ordered in May by the court. And in between, of course, the procedure will continue with the court.
So important is that this is not a decision which comes from yesterday. It's something which comes back to a decision in May, right? So to say you're asking Poland to close it from one day to the next would not correspond to the actual facts. This is a debate which has been brewing for a very long time, on which there have already been decisions by the European Court of Justice, and this is just the latest development in this file. And obviously now we have come to the stage of penalties in order to ensure that the Polish authorities comply with the judgment from the Court of Justice from a certain number of months back. You had a follow-up.
If the money has to be deducted from the pool for Poland, will it come from a certain kind of funds for Poland, or just a general pool that is planned for Poland from the EU budget?
Yeah, I don't have details to go into such a question for the moment where we are is that we will monitor from the Commission side very closely this respect of the order by the court by Poland. And in case of breach, we will issue then on our side from the Commission, we will issue calls for payment at regular intervals. Now, for the deadlines for Poland to pay this fine, those will be set in the debit note calling for the payment of the penalties. And this is all in subject to the financial regulation and the budgetary rules on the recovery of funds due to EU budget.
So, apologies, in human language, that means that we actually ask Poland to pay, right? It's not that we deduct from sums that we owe them necessarily. The first thing is that we issue a note asking them to pay. And therefore, then, as part of its regular payments to the European Union, Poland should therefore transfer the funds. I'm sure that if they don't, then there are obviously possibilities for the Commission to act. But for the moment, the first thing is that we would ask them to pay the sums that are due on a daily basis. On this,
follow up to what Dorota said. So how long are you going to wait until Poland pays or pays not?
No, go ahead.
As we said, we issue a note. We issue a debit note, so they have to pay. This is their legal obligation. Okay? If they don't, then we have to see. We're not going to speculate on the fact that Poland will pay or not pay. The fact is that we will start issuing the notes, asking them to pay the sums that are due according to the court order, and we expect, as any other member state that receives a debit note from the European Commission, to pay. If they don't, then we will see.
Are you going to issue the debit note? When? Today, tomorrow, the day after, next week?
I don't know.
This is something which I can happily check, but I understand that there is a normal standard procedure for that with our auditor colleagues. Sorry?
No,
which
hold
we
on,
will
hold
check.
on.
Yes,
Hold on. This is not a technical briefing on the Treasury function of the European Commission, okay? We're very happy to answer those questions on what is exactly the process in order for the Commission to issue a debit note, and we will come back to you if that's of interest, but you can rest assured that the Commission, obviously, in those cases, requests within normal timeframes a payment from the member states. It's not a question of whether it's done on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and on which basis we then collect the funds for the previous week or not. The fact is that for payments from member states, there are procedures in place from the European Commission for own resources, and the Commission regularly issues the payment request from member states, who then have a certain deadline in order to pay, etc., etc. But I'm sure that Balázs can provide you with insights into the exact functioning of our Treasury function. And it is actually a fascinating subject. Much underreported, if you ask me. Okay, any other questions on this? No? Alexander, is it on this or on another subject? Ah, yes, go ahead. We'll come back to you, Louise, afterwards. Yes.
The subject I tried to raise earlier. Can I speak or should I?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Super. So, as said, a couple of transparency NGOs, including Access Info and Transparency National, have written an open letter to Commissioners Jourova and Breton, in which they raise concern about the lack of progress with and transparency around the implementing act to be adopted as required by the Open Data Directive. More specifically, the NGOs criticize the Commission's failure to take a decisive decision on publication of company data under the Open Data Directive, even after the deadline for member states to transpose the directive has passed. As they said in a press release earlier, Access Info did a study which stated that it was mainly a couple of companies, a couple of countries like Germany, Italy, and Netherlands, which would suffer a loss of revenue from selling company data. So my question is, how will Commissioners Jourova react to the open letter, and is there any news on the implementing act for the Open Data Directive?
Hello, Alexander. Thank you for your question. We have seen the letter. I cannot tell you now how we will respond, but of course we will respond. On your question on the implementing act as such, I can tell you that this is in the process of being drafted, and the next step is the consultation among services in the Commission, which is a normal step for all acts. And then the subsequent step will be a publication online for consultation by stakeholders, so they will be able to see the draft, and then stakeholders can then comment on it, as we always do. And then later this implementing act will then be sent to the Open Data Committee for discussion and then subsequent vote. So you see there's some steps still to be taken, so it's too early now to give you a timing for when the adoption would be foreseen. But yeah, I think it's a couple of months ahead still. Thank you.
Okay. I will take one last question. Today we've run significantly beyond our normal time for the midday briefing, so I go to Louise, who had a question for Vivian. Louise. Louise? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes, perfect. So, sorry for that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I actually have a question for Vivian on illegal logging. So over the weekend, 2 journalists and environmental activists were severely attacked and beaten in Romania for investigating illegal logging in a forest. In July 2020, the Commission issued a reasoned opinion to Romania, asking the country to stop illegal logging, especially in protected areas. We're now a year later, and illegal logging is still going on. Journalists are attacked for investigating that. So what are your reactions first to these events, and is the Commission actually going to take Romania to court on this topic? Thank you.
Thank you. Before passing the floor to Vivian, let me just specify once again that the European Union follows with concern every time that journalists are stopped from doing their work. We have, as you know, adopted a recommendation on this. Recently, the President has announced that the Commission will come forward with a Media Freedom Act. It is of utmost importance for the functioning of our democracies that journalists can do their work, in particular on such delicate issues. Vivian.
Absolutely. And to add to that, of course, when it comes to this issue of illegal logging specifically, that's something where we have seen the failure of the Romanian authorities to address this illegal logging for a while now, and it's a source of serious concern for us. You pointed out, indeed, that we had last year this letter of formal notice. We then issued the reasoned opinion. We have been in constant touch with the Romanian authorities, making sure that they change their way of working there, because what we're looking at, what is missing, is we need to ensure that the forestry operations in Romania comply fully with the EU legislation. Notably, we speak here about the timber EU timber regulation, which prevents timber companies from producing and placing on the EU market products made from illegally harvested logs. We also have the issue there with the Birds and Habitats Directive, which foresees for special protection to the Natura 2000 areas, which an important part of these forests where the illegal logging occurs are in Romania, as well as the issues on the environmental information for the forest management plans. And of course, we are we are working on the situation now for many months already, and it's not for me to prejudge what the Commission will do as the next step in the infringement procedure, but this procedure is certainly ongoing. We've moved already from the letter of formal notice to the reasoned opinion, and we will see what happens next. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I will take one last question. Maciej had raised his hand. Maciej.
Yes, thank you, Eric. Just to clarify, because you said that the Commission can act, it's a question on Poland, but could you please be more specific? At the end of the process, there is a possibility that the money will be deducted from the EU funds, from transfers foreseen to the EU country which not paid the financial payment?
Look, Maciej, I've said this is not a technical briefing on how the Commission organizes the collection of funds from the member states. I've said that Balázs will come back bilaterally to you, to colleagues who are interested in exactly what are our possibilities in order to ensure that payments that are due by member states are made to the European Commission. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow for the college readout sometime in the afternoon.